led to founding of Prime Coalition happened when I was sitting on the floor of the Suffolk University Law Library in 2010. I was reading the US tax code, but let me back up to tell you why I was there. As I said before, back in 2007, we set up the Chisonis Family Foundation in the way that most private family foundations have been set up since the early 1900s. We had traditional grant making on one side that followed nonprofit rules. And then we had an endowment that was managed by a registered investment advisor and overseen by trustees on the other, following prudent investment standards. And based on the Chisonis family's charitable concerns about energy and climate change, at that moment in time, one place that we found that desperately needed traditional grant support were science and engineering researchers that had projects they were working on in nights and weekends, but could not raise grant support from government or corporate sources. And so we supported between 30 and 40 PhD and postdoctoral fellows. It was around, between $3 and $4 million of traditional grant making annually from the grant making side of the foundation into what we thought were the most exciting climate tech projects in the US. But as those researchers started to form for-profit companies to carry their work out of the lab and into the commercial marketplace to make an impact in the real world, they started coming back to us, both looking for advice from a successful tech entrepreneur in Arunas, and of course, looking for investment into their new ventures. And so the Chisonis family became very active direct equity investors into what we would now call early stage climate tech companies. And as their foundation director, it left me with so many questions. Is it appropriate for me to be paid with tax-exempt capital as a foundation employee, even though I'm supporting the family's direct equity investments into for-profit companies with dollars that are not flowing through the foundation? Why are the venture capital firms that we are co-investing with least interested in the businesses that can make the biggest difference on the charitable purposes that we care about? And as the Chisonis family, we have a large traditional grant portfolio, a foundation endowment, and now a direct investment portfolio. Could we have those functions work together better to enhance or better advance our charitable interests? And so these are the questions that led me back to MIT myself in the systems engineering department, this time as a graduate researcher for Professor Dame Fiona Murray. And together we asked the question, are there better financial vehicles for families that see for-profit investing as an important tool in their toolbox to achieve their charitable goals? And as a part of a broader literature review, Fiona sent me to go read the nonprofit sections of the US tax code. And I just remember everything about that cold, sunny day, not unlike today in Boston. I was sitting on the floor of the Suffolk University Law Library, and I came across the program-related investment tax language. And in theory, it was exactly what I was interested in, because it's a mechanism for a private foundation where the primary purpose has to be charitable. And you also have to make this counterfactual argument that the investment would not be made but for the charitable purpose. And so, even just having the language in theory was felt like a relief. And I was really surprised. I had never heard of this mechanism, even as someone that had worked for many years at a private foundation. And so I I'm getting old, because that day I photocopied the page of a physical book that was like this thick, and I walked back across the Charles River to Fiona's office at MIT, and I said, I think I found something, and she agreed with me. And maybe I'll stop the story there, but that's kind of the defining moment, and happy to say much more about all of the other serendipitous moments that came after that.